Welcome, everybody. My name is Lynn Fletcher, and if you're expecting Lisa Herrick, she is on a much-deserved break. So I have been a member of 31st Street since 2017, and anybody who's new, welcome. And for those of you who've been with us for a while, welcome back. I was thinking about this morning, and I realized that the last time we were together at our monthly meeting, Joe Biden had announced only hours before that he was withdrawing from the race and endorsing Kamala Harris. Oh my God, 4 weeks. That's all it's been. 4 weeks. Well, what a difference a month makes. I really feel like I wanted to say that I didn't feel this way before, but I genuinely love Joe Biden. And I really believe that he did something that is so selfless and so important. And I will be forever grateful both for his presidency and for this decision. Now, I don't know about you, but I had absolutely no idea that we were about to enter into a time of such joy, such energy, and it really has been contagious. So tell me if you've had similar encounters. You can raise your hand or not. One of my kids, who has never had interest in politics at all, no matter what I've done, was suddenly calling me handicapping Kamala's VP picks. Friends and acquaintances who have never knocked doors, never written letters, are suddenly asking me, how do I sign up? How do I learn how to do this? Friends who absolutely refuse to discuss politics are suddenly really interested. They're reading the newsletters and taking notes. So there really is a palpable sense of joy. There's laughter. Mark Twain said, grief can take care of itself, but to get the full value of joy, you must have somebody to divide it with you. And I feel like we are sharing this joy to get its full value. And we can do more. You can talk to a friend, talk to a relative, talk to your book club. If you're writing letters or knocking on doors, or we hope attending 31st Street fundraisers, share it with your circle. The candidates we're supporting this month in Michigan and Wisconsin, they're going to help get the vote out from the bottom of the ballot to the top of the ballot. And the other thing I realized when I was looking at the calendar is that early voting starts in some states next month. We have only 79 days until the polls close. So while that seems very short and possibly daunting, it's also such an opportunity because we have this compressed period of time where everyone can do something, right? And if you do something, whether it's knocking on doors, giving money, writing letters, making phone calls, talking to your circle, then you're going to have a part in a really historic moment. And I feel very much like we are surfing this wave, and like all waves, you know, there's up and down. But right now, I think the more people that we can bring in to this, we're going to have a great result in November. So I hope you're all fired up. I hope you're ready to go. And I'm going to turn it over to Jim Shelton, who is going to share his bit of joy and a lot of data and information that we all need to understand. So take it away, Jim.
Great. And I've looked around. I think I know everybody that's on the call, so I don't need to introduce myself particularly, but I am the political strategist, and I pretty much have to talk from my slides, so I'm just going to jump right to that. Okay, so here we go. All right, so, right, we have the wind at our sails or in our sails. But the wind can change, guys. So we can't let up. That's kind of my, and in fact, it's really time to press our advantage to really bring it home everything that we can, which for us, to remind you, is our objective is a federal trifecta and more blue legislatures. And we think right now we're doing more blue legislatures because we also think it will help us get to our federal trifecta. And so we're keeping our foot on the gas. We show this every month. So here's a famous lead in. It's the economy. I've been talking about this every month, but I can't let up. It's the economy smarty. We're not stupid, we're smart, okay? So, and that is so crucial to getting working class voters across the spectrum. And they're the majority of voters. So that's why I'm really happy that nominee Harris has really been hitting the economy head on, including the phrase, I don't know if it comes across that much, but she uses the term opportunity economy. And that is very much in tune with the research by a great group called the Winning Jobs Narrative, who do a lot of research on working class voters and find a consistent finding that they really want more opportunity for themselves and not things given to them so much directly. And so I really like that phrasing. A lot of the things, and I'm being selective here, that I hear coming across are, you've heard me talking about this before, I hope, corporate price gouging and tax cuts for billionaires. When I canvass in Pennsylvania every weekend, this works, trust me, when I'm talking to people about inflation. The fact that the economy is actually very strong despite the perception, and we need to change that perception, and inflation is getting better. But also there are opportunity promoters that she's talking about. So I'm really happy with what she's doing, and the more they do with that and the more they target. By the way, they're doing a lot of digital, a huge amount of digital, and not just TV. And that's very good at targeting the kind of voters we need to have come out for us. So this is probably an outlier on the positive side, but I can't resist showing it because actually the Financial Times came out a few days ago with this tracking poll about who's better on the economy. And in this poll, they actually had Harris slightly better than Trump. Now that is kind of unheard of, and I don't really believe it. And in fact, sure enough, here's another poll that I saw today from ABC News that has her down by 9 on that parameter. But whatever progress we can make on that perception, my view is really great. So I can't resist showing data, guys, because that's the way I look at the world. All right, so now what are we trying to do right now? So previously we were doing state Democratic state parties and C3s and C4s to try to improve the infrastructure, because so much money goes to the high levels of the ticket, not just president, but all the federal offices. And I'm really happy with what we've done, but also I'm happy with what we did last month when we were raising money for Pennsylvania and North Carolina state legislatures. Our goal was $280,000. And thanks to you folks, we actually went way through that. Last I saw was about $230,000. And that's really helping those state legislature candidates. We had a slate. So now this month, again, for the swing states now, Michigan and Wisconsin, we're doing the same thing. In Michigan, we're trying to strengthen the majority in the House. They don't have Senate races, but it's really important to strengthen that the majority, because when they have a one-seat flip majority like they have now, it's really hard to get things done. They have to get everybody on the Democratic side to agree to stuff. Now in Wisconsin, and we'll hear later from Morgan Hess, we have now the opportunity, partly because we helped flip the Supreme Court race last year. They have fair maps, and we'll hear a lot about this. We actually could flip the House in the which, believe me, has some. So even if we just flip the House, we can't flip the Senate because only half of them are up. But we can increase the number of Democrats in the state Senate, and we can then flip it in 2026. And then we'll be doing Arizona next month. So all of this is not just because we want to flip the legislatures, but we really believe that by supporting these legislature races, we can support the up ballot. So I have one really good example for you. Oh, sorry. Here we have our candidates. So we got two slates, and we'll hear a lot from, again, Morgan later. We have talked with my partner Adele. We have talked to every one of these candidates and almost all of their campaign managers. And I can tell you that they are a really great set of folks and a lot of energy, a lot of good ideas. We're actually doing 3 incumbents in Michigan because we need to hold that majority and increase it. Very pleased with that. So, and again, I was going to get to in terms of this power up or nesting, where we think we believe strongly that we're going to have an impact up ballot. So one of our candidates in Michigan 55, for example, is within the district of the U.S. congressional candidate, Marlinga. So, and the two of them are collaborating on their canvassing, their ground game. And then all of that is within the statewide candidates, which of course is for President Harris, for Senate Alyssa Slotkin. But they have two very important Supreme Court races also in Michigan that can determine, very important makeup. And we really need to win those seats to keep democracy going in Michigan. So just again, make that case. All right, now shifting a little bit to one of our other favorite things, which is canvassing. And George is going to talk a bit more about this at the end. Notice the signs that these folks are holding up there. It's for Janelle Stelson, who's running in Congressional District 10 against the odious Scott Perry. We've had a bead on this election consistently for months now, and turning out people every other weekend, and also to some extent every weekend, for this very important race. And lo and behold, earlier polling had showed Stelson just a little bit behind Perry, but this is actually polling from a very highly respected pollster, now showing her ahead. And when the negatives come across, which I'm not saying is necessarily that easy to do, she's even farther ahead. And when we canvass, we are talking to a lot of independents that really do not like Scott Perry and are with us. And we're going to really keep pressing on this particular race. If we can help flip this one race, it will make everything we've done worthwhile. By the way, we're doing voter registration fairly successfully in this district as well. Okay, so switching back to our legislature races and our goal and so forth, that again, it's going to be $280,000. And maybe we'll blow through this again. I sure hope we do. It's at least $20,000 per candidate. And particularly in Wisconsin and Michigan, they have fairly significant campaign ceilings, contribution ceilings. So $20,000 is actually pretty huge for some of these candidates. We talked to one who said he had $18,000 cash on hand. So it's really a pretty, I'm not saying he's all that typical, but he's not that atypical either. All right, so with your help, hopefully we'll do that. Now, in a minute, we're going to turn to Jalen Nix, but before that, I just did want to say half a minute about Morgan Hess, just to explain that she is the caucus executive director. The caucuses in these states, she's the one for the assembly. So she's really the master tactician of what it's going to take to flip the Wisconsin House. So we'll be talking to her after we talk to Jalen. I just want, she's smiling, so good. She knows that we're talking about her. So with that, I'm going to stop and turn it over to Jalen.
Hey, everybody. Good to see everybody again. First off, I want to thank everybody on this call. I know it's been a while since we chatted, and actually, I think someone referenced it earlier. So I was supposed to join you guys on last month's call, but unfortunately, that day we had a heck of a day on the campaign. That was the day that President Biden had dropped out. So I reached out to Jim and apologized profusely. So I appreciate you guys allowing me the opportunity to come back and speak to you guys. I did want to come back here, thank you guys, give you guys some updates on the program and then Pennsylvania at large. So with that, I just wanted to give some updates. So a couple of things that have kind of changed on the party end. I also am splitting time between the PA Dems as well as the Harris for President campaign within Pennsylvania. So I'm serving as the chief operating officer for the state campaign. With that, I think it's more of the same job, but it does give me a unique perspective, and that I not only talk with a lot of our caucus chairs, speak pretty much with our Senate candidates, and really I think this cycle, something that I've noticed that I think will be the difference on election day is just the sheer amount of coordination as well as just enthusiasm on the ground, and definitely now more than ever with our candidate change. Although I think President Biden, and to echo what other folks have said on this call, did an incredibly courageous thing and is truly an American hero and defines what it means to be an American. And we're grateful for him for really taking a look at himself and making what a lot of folks I think will go down in history as a good choice. That being said, there is no shortage of momentum, and the campaign does continue on. The reason I'm coming on here to thank you guys is really show you guys a lot of what has happened since the last time we spoke, and I believe that was in April. So when we were talking in April, we wanted to get ahead of the coordinated campaign and continue on with the organizing programs that we had started in early January that were just starting to hire on the coordinated staff. But really, Pennsylvania was the first state with an organizing team on the ground. And the results, I think, have really yielded a lot of energy, a lot of new volunteers. And it's because of folks like you guys who believed in the state party and made a crucial investment that allowed us to hire early. So some top lines that I want to just go over for those of you guys on this call. We have over 300 staff. This is the largest state campaign of any state. So I know those of you guys who are Pennsylvania locals, there are over 300 coordinated staff. Of that 300 coordinated staff, of 200 of them are organizing staff. So that is an incredible amount of infrastructure. And that was one of the great things that when Vice President Harris decided to take the reins and really become the presidential nominee, she inherited an incredible amount of infrastructure, and we really haven't missed a beat since then. It was really great to be both with her and Governor Shapiro and Governor Walz in Philadelphia on August 6th when they announced the nomination. And in part, a lot of our staff often have to deal with the many, many rallies. The big thing that having such a large staff affords you the opportunity to do is that you can really do multiple things at one time. So case in point, if you guys are watching the news today, a lot of our staff are out in Western PA doing a Western PA swing on the bus tour. I'm here in Philadelphia. This is our weekend of action going into the convention. And one of the big things that I really want to highlight is we can do a lot of large scale, big things without really taking our eye off the ball and missing out or not missing out on those crucial volunteer contacts that we need. So one of the biggest things that a lot of our staff, and actually I kind of want a little bit tangential, but I do want to give you guys brass tacks. So currently right now, the state campaign is sitting at 45 field offices. Of those 45 field offices, 7 are located within the city of Philadelphia, and that was our primary focus when we spoke earlier this year in April. And because of the early investment, we really were able to build strong relationships and scale the campaign to the level that we need it to be in order to be successful in November. And I know some folks may be concerned about, well, I hope you guys aren't just focused on Philadelphia. I can assure you we are not. Although we have 7 in Philadelphia, we also have an additional 5 in the city of Pittsburgh alone. So we are not just focused on Philadelphia. We're not just focused on Pittsburgh. Amongst the state, we have a really good distribution of both staff and offices to make sure that folks on the ground know that the Harris-Walz campaign is here, that we want to win, and there's been an incredible amount of enthusiasm on the ground. So there's an incredible amount of enthusiasm. And that's really what you guys and people like yourselves who took the chance and believed in Pennsylvania really gave us the opportunity to do. We got a head start, and that head start allowed us to build really, really strong relationships, which allows us to do big things at a big scale, and we could do multiple things at once. And that's in part because of folks like you. And I can't stress that enough. Thank you to everybody who really believed in us back in April. I do think, and I think everybody here can feel the enthusiasm. We're going to win this election. And I am so proud of that. We're not just going to win the presidency. We're going to make sure that we retain our Senate seat. We are also going to hold on to our majority within the House of Representatives. I do want us to win the Senate over. I know that's an uphill battle, but this new candidate with this new enthusiasm opens up a lot of opportunity, opens up a lot of doors. So just again, I wanted to say thank you to everybody on this call for allowing me the opportunity to talk to you guys and give you positive news. And the last thing I'll say is, while I'm very happy and excited to give you guys positive news, I just want to send just a quick reminder that we cannot take our eye off the ball. I know a lot of Democrats are very enthusiastic about the recent polling numbers. I think ABC had a poll that had Vice President Harris up by 6 points. And while that is great, and while things are trending in the right direction, that is not enough to win 270 electoral votes. And folks need to be mindful of that in order to win 270 electoral votes, you need to be up by 8 points nationally. And we're just not there yet. Pennsylvania alone in 2020, Donald Trump won Pennsylvania by, I believe, 0.74% in 2016. In 2020, President Biden beat him by 1.14%. And I'm fudging the numbers here, but it was 1%. Those are very, very narrow margins. And although Donald Trump is a terrible candidate and we have an incredible candidate at the top of our ticket, folks cannot take their eye off the ball. And it really is going to come down to those 80,000 votes that were the difference between another Trump presidency and a pathway forward for Americans. So just want to be, I know a lot of Democrats are going to feel a lot of enthusiasm coming out of this convention, and we cannot make the mistake of resting on our laurels and assume that we have this one in the bag. So it's going to come down to everybody picking up a packet, knocking doors, stopping at their local field office, donating to Democrats, both up and down the ballot. But with this coalition, I truly do believe that we are going to win. And I'm grateful for every single one of you guys who are leaning into this election. So with that, I'm also going to drop our Mobilize link in the chat. So if you guys want to volunteer and sign up for a ship, would certainly encourage you guys to do so. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Shelton, and thank you everybody for the opportunity.
Okay, so with that, we'll just move right over to Morgan, who's still on mute, it looks like, but over to you, Morgan.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for letting me come and talk with you all. I'm really excited. My name's Morgan. As Jim said, I am the caucus director at the Assembly Democratic Campaign Committee in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is obviously one of those perpetual swing states. We've always got close elections here, always at the top of the ticket. Our statewide elections are always really, really close. But something that's new for the Assembly Democrats this year is that for the first time in over 12 years, we have a path to the Democratic majority in the Assembly this year, thanks to new fair maps. And I know that is in part due to the work that you all did in 2023 to help us get the money we needed to flip that Supreme Court seat and elect Janet Protasiewicz to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. They struck down our ruthlessly gerrymandered maps, one of the worst gerrymanders in the entire country. This court has moved on restoring abortion access in the state of Wisconsin. We still need a statutory protection, a protection in law for abortion access in the state of Wisconsin, but we at least have restored access through that Supreme Court case. The Supreme Court is also looking at cases about collective bargaining rights, the power of state government. If you'll remember, when Scott Walker lost in 2018, they stripped the Democratic governor of a lot of the powers that the governor's office traditionally held in Wisconsin. We're bringing up those cases as well. And in 2022, the Assembly Democrats held off a Republican super majority by just 2 votes in the Assembly. The Senate went into a Republican super majority. We held it off. And that was really critical too, because We would not be in a position to have fair maps this year if we had not overcome that Republican supermajority. They would have been able to veto any fair map that we passed, that the Supreme Court implemented, and done whatever they want. And so all of the work that folks put into the 2022 cycle, the 2023 cycle, has put us in a position to win now in Wisconsin. And we are so excited about the opportunity. I will go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully folks can see that. This is our beautiful new assembly map. There is a lot more blue on these seats than we have seen in quite a while. These are the, you'll notice something that I'm really excited about is we now have blue and competitive seats all over the state of Wisconsin. We're going to bring rural Democrats back into the caucus, and we've got some really competitive seats that we can go get. We've got another seat up north, which previously this Superior seat up here in the very top of the state was cut into 2 Republican seats. It is now unified as it should be, and it's a Democratic seat. This is going to be really important for how those assembly races impact the top of the ticket, not just for Kamala Harris, but also for Senator Tammy Baldwin, who is a must win if we are going to hold on to the to get a majority in the US Senate. You'll notice that we've got competitive races in every media market in the state of Wisconsin. So the work that we are doing in these assembly races is also happening in those bellwether communities of our state, like Green Bay, over here on the lake, like Eau Claire up here in western Wisconsin, this little group of 3, and then a lot of seats in the Milwaukee suburbs and southern Wisconsin as well. So we currently have 35 Democratic seats in the assembly. We have 15 GOP seats to flip this year. That's obviously a big lift. I'll show you what that path looks like here in a second, but an important piece of this to remember is some of those seats are going to come easier to us. There are some places like that Superior seat up north that are pretty blue seats now that those communities have been made whole under fair maps. And those are going to come to us from the Republicans a little bit easier. Then we've got a lot of toss-up seats that we have to go get. One of the exciting things about fair maps and one of the challenges about fair maps is that in a state like Wisconsin, it means you have a lot of very competitive, very close seats. That's what fair maps look like in Wisconsin. We really are a purple state. And so fair maps don't give power to one party or the other. It creates these really competitive districts, which has given us an opportunity to go get the majority. We have candidates running in 97 of 99 assembly districts across Wisconsin, which is really exciting and again, good for the top of the ticket. I know you all are very focused on what works on data-driven campaigns. Something that I am really proud of is to date right now, these 97 assembly candidates have knocked 34% of all the doors in the state of Wisconsin since June 1st. We are a huge part of the Wisconsin Democratic Party's coordinated campaign. We are fully coordinated on all of our field efforts with Senator Baldwin, the Kamala Harris campaign, and with our state Senate friends as well. And so our folks really help power the ground game. Something we ask all of our candidates before they decide to run is, are you willing to knock on doors at least 20 hours a week? Because we've seen a lot of research that shows that there is no more effective canvasser than somebody who is appearing on your ballot. They can have a more persuasive conversation than even a volunteer because they show up at the door and say, I'm actually the person on your ballot, and I would love to hear what is important to you. And so it is incredibly important for us that our candidates are out on the doors at least 5 days a week, talking to persuadable voters, making the case not just for their own race, but also for the top of the ticket. And our canvassing scripts for our assembly candidates, the first question is about the assembly. The second question is what their plan to vote is. And the third question is, can we count on you to vote for VP Harris and Senator Baldwin? And we make sure that we are having those conversations at the doors and that we are doing that important persuasion work. Our caucus budget is pretty big this year with 15 targeted seats. It's about 18 million. Another unique piece of the Wisconsin campaign finance laws, as Jim mentioned, is that our candidates have $1,000 per 2-year contribution limit. So they can only accept $1,000 per individual donor or PAC across the entire 2-year cycle. That's pretty low. It's one of the lowest in the country. It's also a challenge when we see our assembly races getting more and more expensive. For context, our most expensive assembly race in 2022 cost us about $1.2 million. We were outspent on the Republican side, and we won that seat by about 700 votes. So these are close elections. They're getting expensive. And so something that's unique about Wisconsin is that the caucus does a lot of the fundraising as well for these candidates. They still have big goals, and we have big goals to come in and help fund these programs. So the state of the new maps in Wisconsin, when we look at previous election results and backwards apply them to the new map, you'll see that we've got 58 seats that went for Senator Baldwin in 2018. I'll say Senator Baldwin is a little bit of an outlier. She is wildly popular in Wisconsin. She outperforms everybody else on the ballot. We are always chasing Tammy as the high water mark. She is as Wisconsin as they come. She runs phenomenal campaigns, and she really overperforms, particularly with independents in Wisconsin. When you look at the Biden numbers from 2020, there are 49 Democratic seats under these new maps. You'll remember that Joe Biden won Wisconsin by a very, very narrow margin, just a couple tens of thousands of votes. Using these new maps, he would have won 49 seats. And Governor Evers, who was reelected governor in Wisconsin in 2022, would have 52 Democratic seats. So I like to show this because it really shows you how tight this margin is. We've got a path to the majority. It's clear, but it is going to be really competitive. We're going to need to outperform that Biden margin slightly, and we're going to need to maintain the coalition of voters that elected Governor Evers in 2022. I will tell you, there is a lot of excitement on the ground here in Wisconsin. VP Harris is coming to Milwaukee on Tuesday. They were in Eau Claire just last week, and we're seeing tens of thousands of people try and get into those rallies. There's a lot of excitement about the top of the ticket in Wisconsin that I think is really going to help us build this coalition at the assembly level. Like I said, 50 seats is a majority in the Wisconsin Assembly. And there are 3 potential options for the 50th seat. And I'll show you those numbers here in a second. We've got 15 seats that I would consider a lean Dem seats that Joe Biden won by 52 to 55% of the vote. And then we have 10 toss-up seats that were won or lost by 2 points or less in this district, or in these districts. We have to win 8 of those toss-ups. So like I said, we've got a path to the majority, but these are going to be really, really competitive races. When you look at the path to the majority in the assembly in Wisconsin, and this is ordered by Biden's performance in 2022. So I think a lot about the path to 50. What are our 49th seat? What is our 50th seat? What is our 51st seat? Ordered by past performance. You'll see that we've got those 52 seats that Evers won, those 49 seats that Joe Biden won, and a lot of really, really close margins. The 3 seats that are options for the 50th seat for us, the 85th, the 88th, and the 30th, are all seats that Donald Trump won by a couple tenths of a percentage point. These are as close as they come. And in fact, seat 49 here, Steve Doyle's seat, Joe Biden won it by just 9 votes in 2020. We like to joke with the incumbent member that it's a Biden plus 9 district, and we do mean 9 people, not 9 percentage points. And so these are very, very close races. And I've highlighted in yellow those 6 candidates on your slate that you all are working to raise funds for to help support. And you'll notice they are right below and right above that majority maker line. We are really, really focused on getting to 50 seats, and that's how we are thinking about it. And so the work that you all are doing to raise funds for these candidates is so deeply important and goes directly into their paid media programs. That's mail, that's cable TV, it's digital ads, it's streaming, it's all kinds of layered, really targeted mediums that we can make sure we're reaching out to the most persuadable voters in these districts. I can tell you we just had a poll briefing this morning on our second round of our battleground messaging poll. And as Jim mentioned earlier, what we are hearing about over and over again is the cost of living, and that Republicans are trying to take away our freedoms in Wisconsin. And that is overwhelmingly what voters are telling us. And the good news about these targeted seats, most of which have a Republican incumbent in them because of the old maps, they have Republican incumbents who are used to running in R+20 seats, seats that were gerrymandered to be unlosable for them. And because of that, they have bad vote histories for their districts. They are not good fits for these new districts. And this is the year that we can go unseat them. For example, in that first district, AD 21 with David Marsteller, we have a Republican incumbent there who voted against capping the price of insulin at $35 in the state of Wisconsin, who voted against funding our child care counts program that reduces the cost of child care for parents, voted against free school breakfast and lunch, which would save a family of four $1,300 a year. And we see that voting pattern across these targeted districts. They are vulnerable. They have taken bad votes. Many of these folks have written bills to ban abortion without exceptions. Another vulnerability that they have not had to worry about under very gerrymandered maps. And so we feel really strongly that if we have the funds to go just tell voters about the vote histories of these Republican incumbents and make the case for why we are better on the core issues that matter the most to them, we will be able to go win these seats and take this majority in the assembly. And that's going to be really important because, frankly, after 12 years of Republican rule in the state legislature, there is a lot of work to get done. Republicans have weakened our election laws. They have made it harder to administer elections. There is no statutory protection for public sector collective bargaining in Wisconsin. There is no statutory protection for abortion rights here in Wisconsin. Our schools are chronically underfunded here in Wisconsin. There's a lot of work to do after a pretty tyrannical reign by Republicans under their gerrymander. And we are really excited about the new opportunity that we have to make a big difference in the lives of Wisconsinites here. And the work that these folks do will help the top of the ticket re-elect Tammy Baldwin, help the Harris-Walz ticket carry Wisconsin again in November, and set us up for success at the national level too. So I just can't thank you enough for the work that you're doing all over the country, for the work that you're going to do in Wisconsin. It is so, so important. It will really help make the difference in a lot of these campaigns. And I will stop there, but I am happy to take questions, talk through more districts in any detail. Whatever is helpful, just let me know.
Great. Thank you so much, Morgan. I am Aaron Hamburger. I am the membership person over here at 31st Street and also the question fielder for our Q&As with our guest speakers. So thank you so much. I know people were very impressed. I was impressed with your presentation. We only have a few minutes. One question that came to mind for me was, how does the Democratic effort on the ground, the state Democratic Party, your caucus, compare with your Republican counterparts in terms of fundraising, boots on the ground, et cetera?
Yeah, so I'll start with fundraising because it's a little bit of a clearer picture. We are running about neck and neck with fundraising with our Republican Assembly caucus. The difference is in the type of donors that we have. A fun fact that I always think is really illuminating is in 2022, when we looked back across the whole cycle, the Republican caucus had less than 100 individual donors. It was billionaires in Wisconsin writing massive checks. We've just saw a donor write a $3 million check to the Republican Assembly caucus last month. That is their method of fundraising. Whereas us in 2022, we had about 7,000 individual donors who contributed to our caucus. And so 7,000 versus about 97, I think really shows the difference in how these races are powered. I think ours is better. We have grassroots support. We have folks who are enthusiastic, and they're not just donating, they're knocking doors, they're making phone calls, they're doing all the things that help us win these elections. But the Republicans have a lot of money too. And so we are constantly working to make sure that we are able to outpoint them, are able to out-message them, and that we have the resources we need to beat them to those persuasion voters. On the field, I think our field operation is second to none, and that includes that Republican Party. We knock hundreds of thousands of doors. Literally in the last 2 months, the state of Wisconsin has knocked over 170,000 persuasion doors. And that's not counting primary doors, because you'll have to remember our primary was just on Tuesday. And so we are only counting those persuasion doors in that number. We knock a ton of doors. We have a great phone banking program, a really strong relational organizing program that is custom to individual assembly districts, because we know how important that is. And again, we run a fully coordinated campaign in Wisconsin with the entire ticket. And so every single door knocked, every campaign gets the data from those doors. And so that helps make our paid media better, our targeting better. It helps us narrow in on those voters we really need to remind to get out and vote. And something that we do in our coordinated campaign is, when I say persuasion doors, I mean both conventional persuasion, moderates, split ticket voters, people who go back and forth. But I also mean folks that we need to persuade to participate at all. We're talking to Democratic voters who maybe don't always vote, or only vote in presidential elections, but don't go all the way down the ballot. And those are in our persuasion universe right now. It's really important that we are making the case to people that they have to go out and vote, that they need to be part of this election. And so both of those folks are in our field program, which I think is a real strength of our field program.
Wonderful. Thanks. That was a great answer. And then just for Jalen, I know you got a couple of questions on the chat that you already answered. Yes, Josh Shapiro is going to get in there, which is great. And you've got Harris Walls lawn signs coming to folks. But maybe you could also just tell us a little bit as well, how, you know, it's so impressive what's going on with your field operations that you described to us. How does it compare to what the Republicans are doing in Pennsylvania on the ground?
Yeah, absolutely. And to answer the question in the chat, so it's my understanding that the Trump campaign pretty much just gave up on DVC and is having like it's Turning Point do all of their direct voter contacts, which is just insane, because if anybody has ever watched those conferences, it's like these people are going to talk to voters. And the reality is like Democrats lose when Democrats stay home. And it's largely a consequence of just who we are as a party, is that we are a very broad perspective party. So in order for us to win, we have to talk to a lot of people and a lot of different types of people, whereas Republicans can target the same people. And generally speaking, their strategy is always to try to convince Democrats not to turn out, as opposed to trying to get different groups of people, trying to have more engagement targets. That's kind of a tale as old as time. So when it comes to field, I have yet to see a Republican canvasser. It's just not something that they focus on, because their universe is widely different from what we try to target. Whereas like right now, our priority, and I can speak pretty frankly here, in Pennsylvania specifically, the campaign, when we're looking at some of our breakthrough targets, it is that suburban, college-educated, white woman class, as well as trying to increase turnout within heavily urban demographics. So Philadelphia, again, I think it's a little bit easier now with the change in the candidate. And these are all very, very, very gross generalities. So I'm not speaking for a lot of folks, but generally speaking, our pathway to victory in Pennsylvania goes through a lot of the collar counties. So Montco, Delco, Chesco, parts of Luzerne. I think for us is we're going to try to make sure that we hold our own in Luzerne County. As you saw, former President Trump was in Wilkes-Barre. So our universe is always different. Whereas the Republicans on the ground, I really don't know what their investment is on ground game. They usually try to own the airwaves. So pretty much if you look on it within the 6 media markets of Pennsylvania, you have a Kamala Harris ad, and then you have a McCormick or a Trump ad. And then whatever nut job pack is doing like really ugly hit pieces for Trump. But generally speaking, their, I guess, efforts are mainly going to be on the airwaves and then whatever sound bites they can get out of Trump's deranged press conferences. They don't really believe in talking to different types of voters or new voters, whereas we depend on that feedback loop to help adjust, reframe, and really, hone our messaging in real time. Like we need that feedback loop to be better on messaging.
Well, great. Thank you so much. Thanks to both of our terrific guest speakers this time. Let's give them a hand. And then we are going to turn it over to Mary in a sec. When we finish our regular meeting, we tend to stay on a little bit and chat. So if our guests want to stay on for that as well at 5 o'clock, they can, or if they need to go, they can roll off as well. But thanks again. And Mary, take it away.
Thank you, Aaron. So my name is Mary Pence, and I want today to ask you to do two things. But before I do, I want to talk for a minute about gratitude. And number one, well, maybe not number one, but very high on my list of things I'm grateful for is 31st Street Swing Left itself. And that has a lot of pieces to it, but it really boils down to this: the opportunity to make a difference by being part of a community with a brilliant strategy and lots of committed hard workers. So thank you, 31st Street. The second thing I want to lift up in terms of my personal gratitude is President Joe Biden for stepping down when he did. Ironically, it kind of turns out it was a very opportune moment. Not that there was that kind of planning to it, but clearly a selfless, patriotic, heroic thing that I feel he did, and I'm grateful to him for that. The third thing I'm grateful for is these 14 candidates, 7 in Wisconsin and 7 in Michigan. And Jim put their pictures up in sort of a blue frame earlier. You know, these people are doing the hard work and putting in the commitment on the ground to make a difference on all levels in this coming election. And so I'm just grateful to them for stepping up and being willing to run with everything that they've got. And the last thing I'm grateful for is the 45 people, some more than that actually, because some of you are couples who are here on this call and thinking about how you can contribute to what Jim calls the Democratic trifecta, that it's essential that we win in November. So, out of your gratitude for these things and for other things that are unique to you, I request that you be open to doing two things. The first thing is to contribute through the Act Blue links that are in the chat to these 14 candidates in in Michigan and Wisconsin, because relatively small amounts of money make a difference in these campaigns.
I think Mary froze there. But I think I know what she was going to say next, which is consider being a co-host for our next fundraiser for Wisconsin and Michigan. I know that I am a co-host. I'm originally from Michigan. Go Blue in more ways than one. So anyway, if you would like to be a co-host, it's very easy. And all you need to do is to email Mary Pence over at marypence58@gmail.com. And you too can invite all of your friends. And particularly if they are fans of the Michigan Wolverines, they have to donate in honor of the national championship last year to make the state blue. So with that, I believe next on our docket is George Hastings. George, are you there? Yes, George has a message for us. George, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Aaron. It's great to talk to you folks today, as opposed to last month, when now things are going so terrific for the Democratic ticket, and we're all so excited. But I wanted to talk to you briefly about where we go from here, and I want to stress that it's still going to be a very close election. And it's coming down to 7 states, unfortunately. Those of us who live in the DC, Maryland, even Virginia, our vote's probably not going to really count for president, because we know how those states are going to come out. But what if you could go to make your vote count in Pennsylvania, the most important state in the country this year? Well, there is a way. I'm not going to propose a voting illegally in Pennsylvania and going to jail, but there is a way you can really influence the vote in Pennsylvania. We have been canvassing all summer in South Central Pennsylvania, just an hour and a half to 2 hours from the DC area. And we are influencing votes. We are registering voters who otherwise probably wouldn't get registered before the election. It registered people who we think are Democrats. We think they're going to vote Democrat. So if you register one person and that person votes, in effect, you voted in Pennsylvania and it was legal. We are talking to other people who maybe have Democratic inclinations, but they're not planning. We find out they're not planning to vote. They don't think it makes a difference. They don't realize that Pennsylvania is a close state. We are influencing those people, and they're promising to vote. And we're going to follow up with them in the days before the election, but we're identifying those people and setting ourselves up. The third thing we're doing is we're talking to independents and even some Republicans who were fed up with Donald Trump, but they're not sure they want to go so far as to vote for a Democrat. We're giving them some influence. We're persuading them that it does make sense. And if in the course of a day of canvassing, you influence 2 or 3 voters, 5 voters, maybe even more, if you canvass several times, there's no telling how many votes you can cast in Pennsylvania for Kamala Harris and against Donald Trump and to save democracy in our country. So canvassing is the way that you can really reach out and make a difference in a way that's even more profound than just casting your own vote. So we encourage you to take a look at our newsletter, sign up for a canvass. We're going to be canvassing every day, every Saturday from Labor Day till Election Day. And please, we're going to be also canvassing next week, August 24th. So please sign up and canvass with us. We're going to provide training if you haven't canvassed before, very good training, orientation before the canvass. And it's surprisingly easy to do. As Mary said earlier, once you sign up, once you do it a few times, you knock on a few doors, you relax, you get into a groove, you start to enjoy yourself. And when you get this idea, you registered a voter, you influenced somebody to vote that wasn't going to vote, you persuaded somebody to vote for Kamala, there's no feeling as good as that. It really is a tremendous, you feel you made a difference to save our country. So please join us in canvassing. Thank you.
Thanks so much, George. It was very heartfelt, beautiful. I was actually just canvassing in Pennsylvania last weekend, and I met a Republican who said, "Oh, Janelle Stelson is running for Congress. There's only 3 women in the world that I would die to meet. Olivia Newton-John, Linda Carter, who played Wonder Woman, and Janelle Stelson. I'm voting for Janelle." And then we started talking, and I got him to commit to vote for Sarah Agerton and to consider voting for Kamala Harris. So you never know where these conversations are going to take you. All right, we are getting toward the formal close of our program. Lynn, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, great program. I do see a couple of questions in the chat, and I think Mike Wilco, the answer about the registration info, if you're doing a canvas, we do have, I believe, you can check me on this, George, a sheet of paper you can take with you that has a QR code. And Aaron just posted the corrected link to sign up. So with that, we do like to end on time, and we are right on time. We will be staying on. Those of us that want to just chat, everybody can kind of unmute, ask questions, say what your thoughts are. And for everybody else, great seeing you. Thank you for being here.